Okay.
So,
You were
as
talking
I was
about funding.
explaining, because the way that Title IV-E is funding by bonuses for removal and by per head count per day, and they having to keep a certain category of children up in order to keep the Title IV-E money coming up, all we have to do is just distribute the same amount of money, but make it per population of state children, not per head count. Because what happens is there's it's open-ended and there's a perpetual cycle going on to where the more kids they get, the more money they get. But then they have to keep that level up to keep the money up. And then if they get more kids, and this is how it is going. In everywhere, the foster care quote-unquote population is down, but they're getting the same exact amount because they're keeping the kids longer. I mean, it really is all about finances. So if we take the finances out of it and give them good, stable, steady money to where they don't have to go after a certain category of child and they don't have to keep a certain population up, that will take away the need to have children in there at all costs. And let me talk to you about the ghost children for just a second.
Wait, why do they get more money for adopting out?
That's called the ASPA, which is the Adoption and Safe Family Program, 1997 from the Clintons. And what it did was there was a whole bunch of kiddos, and it was just all of these like kids languishing in care. And what they did was they put like a $5,000 to $10,000 per child. That if the department's successful with the children, puts them in foster care and adopts them out at time of adoption, they get in their office, county level, a bonus.
Where does that money go? Directly to the foster care worker? Or?
It goes directly to the office, and oftentimes I can show you lots of Facebook pages where the actual social worker, especially if it's a nice big family because they get it per child, they get bonuses, invitations, and et cetera, et cetera.
The CPS workers get bonuses directly and vacations
now,
directly.
it's more unofficial because they've done a good job for the office, but any means necessary to get the money is really what happens. There are some good social workers who will not do this because they have a moral compass, right? They quit.
Yeah.
And it's the Peter principle, the ones that are absolutely fine with doing this behavior that stay.
Yeah. There's a mom in San Bernardino. She's a military, but she's active duty military, and she had her daughter taken, and she fought for a year to get her back. And she's still active duty, and she's a young mom, and she's a hard worker, and she did absolutely everything right. She became friendly with the foster care parent. It was a good relationship. The foster care parent advocated for her child to go back, and they started talking about adoption. And I was like, why didn't they place your baby with your parents or anybody else?
See, that's why they're doing it, because they don't really want to reunify. They don't get paid to reunify families.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm going to give you an example. Let's say that a county office had 10 parents with maybe 20 kids, right? And there was a miracle drug. And they all had a drug addiction. And they took this pill, and none of them were addicted anymore, and they got all their kids back. The office would literally close down.
Because they wouldn't have funding.
There's no funding unless there are kids in care. So to take that burden off of them, because we're literally forcing them to act this way.
Yeah.
So
it's like the military. That's how their budgets are.
To take this burden away, all we should do is do it per capita, per child. That means that there's steady, stable funding, which is what they desperately need. But I would like to talk to you about the missing foster children. We have known for a long time, a lot of advocates that children are entering foster care and then they vanish and we don't know where they go. And we don't know how they vanish either. But we do know now with the U.S. Marshals reporting is that the primary source of sex trafficked children is now the HHS, but we didn't know how it was working.
Homeland Health.
We didn't know what the gap was that was causing this, but we do now. There was a recent government report out.
Health and Human Services.
The Health and Human Services, and they had a report basically that said states do not always report, I have it here, children who are missing from foster care.
I looked that bill up, or the report.
Of that report, I'm going to focus on the 35,000 children who were never reported.
That was from 2018 to 2020?
Right, but the report just came out. Mm-hmm. Okay, so...
Why so late?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it?
Yeah. You're like, this girl's asking all the right questions. I'm like, I'm confused.
This is the thing. I went to Grassley's, and I want to.
We'll talk about this wildness.
Yes, just really quick what had happened, and the reason I'm doing this is because there was an article that says no such meeting appear on the congressional calendars about me seeing Grassley and Murray and, the whole bit. I've been doing this for a long time. And this is in her report. She took my very favorite picture there. I love that picture, I do. Thank you for that. But she obviously was trolling for some reason my Facebook account. I mean, this was off of my Facebook. This was off of my Facebook. She never contacted me.
That's me. I'm in there. Yeah, I know her personally. She's contacted me before. She could have contacted me for comment.
She didn't contact me for comment either. Although
she's got my phone number. She could have called me. I texted her. I said, hey, do you need to talk to me?
Trolling my Facebook account. And then, this is the funny part, is she said there's no documentation that I went to go visit Senator Grassley. Guess who that is? So I'm a little bit worried about her judiciary
due diligence.
Due diligence. I mean, she was already on my Facebook page, and here's another page from a different day. I saw him in a 48-hour period of time. I saw him 3 different times. And there we are, working with his aide, that's Chuck Grassley's office. And this is the guy that I'm working on with the bill. And what the bill is...
Is that Archibald?
Yeah. And what the bill is that Archibald and I are working on is an amendment to the current law that says that you must report foster children missing. Because we know for a fact now, very first report that actually looked at the numbers, we found out that 35,000 different children over a 2-year period were missing, but no one reported them missing, which means that Senator Ossoff's and indeed all of Congress's numbers are off. I called Stephanie at Senator Ossoff's office, and I confirmed that all of the numbers of missing children that they used in all of the Senate reports right here were wrong. They did not include the unreported missing children, who are consistently 50% more of what the Center for Missing Children are. Unreported missing children are, by definition, not in the list of the Center for Missing Children, because those are missing reported children. So then what we knew from this report, for a fact, that somewhere something was happening and children were vanishing and they weren't being reported.
Yeah.
Now, from a sleuth, that means that it has to be either the medical care, it has to be the teachers, it has to be the foster parent, or it has to be the state actors.
Not reporting. Which all are mandated reporters.
Whose fault is it, though? But we found out whose fault it is. The current federal government law that mandates that people report children when they're missing has 2 fatal errors. The first fatal error is that in the law it says that the foster care parent can't report the child missing. Did you know that?
Wait, the own foster care, why?
Because they're supposed to report it to the social worker. And then the social worker is supposed to report the child missing, and that is where the federal crime is happening. The social workers in this government report, in 70% of the cases, did not report the children as they were supposed to, and in over 50% of the cases, never reported the child missing. And what that means is that the child came into foster care, it vanished. Generally what we found out from social studies is that the foster parents are indeed reporting it to the social worker. It is a social worker who is failing to report the child missing, and it comes down to money. The day that, they report the child, their funds for that child stops. And so now it is literally more likely than not that they will not report a missing child. And that means no one is looking for this children.
So that's across all 50 states?
That's across all 50 states. This is a national report. Right now, it is an absolute confirmed fact. And Grassley's office, I gave him this data and the report and everything. They just couldn't believe it. So he took 2 days to look at it. He had stacks that big, and he believes it now. He can't believe it. He's so mad at the HHS report people that they didn't prioritize this into an urgent thing. Because we've got 35,000 children who are missing, and now we have definitely found out that the HHS is the primary source of sex trafficked children. Where are these children come? You got supply, you got demand.
Yeah.
What we're focusing in on is some dead guy with a list for the demand, right? We need to focus on the supply. Where the heck are these children coming from that are being sex trafficked? Well, we know they're coming from the government because the social workers are failing to report when these children go missing. Some of them for up to 2 years, many dead, many sex trafficked. So there is the federal law that says that you must report these children within 24 hours, but there are no consequences if you fail to report. As a matter of fact, if you fail to report a child who is missing, you get money. Now,
and that's how they've discovered all those missing kids. Was the amount of money that was being given didn't match the number of children that they were saying. So it was like the disproportion was about 35,000 children.
It was 35,000 children that was never reported.
So you said that the states basically audited themselves and told on themselves through the...
No, they did not. The states did not audit themselves.
Or they reported their numbers.
What they did was, it was an outside source, right?
Oh, okay.
Because they've audited themselves all across the number. They audit themselves all the time, and they always find themselves just fine.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's like the military.
But there's been 2 audits. One was through Connecticut, and the other one was through the HS over all the United States. And those are the first 2 reports that show consistently that 70% of the times a foster child is missing. 70% of the time a foster child is missing, they are not reporting. And so therefore nobody is looking for them. And here's the other big fraud part. Because they never reported the child missing, they never reported the child no longer in foster care. So they all keeping the money.
So they could keep, I mean, if a child was 17, they could keep it until what, 18, 19?
Yeah,
like just...
exactly. The only way they found out occasionally, and we know that they did find out very, very rarely, but it was generally associated with a child on Social Security who had died a couple of years, and then they finally get the death certificate and, wrap things up and find out, we've been paying for 2 years for this kid and they're dead.
Yeah.
And then they do what's called a clawback, where they take the money. But we found out that they were doing clawbacks on kids who were still missing, and even at that point, they did not report.
They're doing clawbacks from CPS.
They're very rarely doing clawbacks from CPS, but they had no idea the volume of the children that were missing. It's an epidemic. It is an epidemic.
So the matter's not a matter of like changing the funding structure, it's a matter of changing the reporting structure and the consequences for not reporting.
2 things. One, we have to take the motivation for them to not report children, right? I mean, if they stop getting money because they're reporting the child, we need to stop that payment process.
Yeah.
And if we just did it per head count, it wouldn't matter funding-wise whether they reported the child missing. So we need to take that out. And then we also need to do 2 other things. The 2 fatal flaws that are in the law is that the primary caregiver is not allowed to report the child missing.
Yeah, that's messed up.
That is messed
That'd be
up.
like telling a teacher you're not allowed to report a student being absent.
Exactly.
Or a parent, you're not allowed to report your own kid missing. You got to go call a lawyer, and the lawyer has to do it. And you're like,
what happens is they're reporting it to the foster social worker.
Social workers.
They think the child has been reported, but they're not, and there's no way for them to follow up. How are they going to know that the child wasn't reported?
That breakdown in a relationship that you're describing is what I've heard when there's good parents working to get their children back, like no drugs, no alcohol. They're in the military. They're getting drug tested. They're going to work every day. They've got a stable income. They've got a stable living situation, and it's a single mom, sure, but like that's not a reason to take a child indefinitely. And they then they like try to like foster distrust between the foster parent and the regular parent and like make it really nasty. And I heard a really good story that it was good, but
every action that they do is predictable. Every single action. Which action will they get them most money, the child longer in foster care, because they need that child in there. And that's what they do. They like confusion and to try to pit people against each other and to make it last. The longer it lasts, the more money they have.
Yeah. So where can people go to get this report to start, just like if they want to dig into the research and
for what?
The 35,000 missing children?
Oh, okay.
Like if they want to look at the numbers.
Sure, that's
for their own, because it's by state.
HHS report, and just look it up by its title, which is states fail to report missing foster children.
Yep.
Something.
You send it to me.
Yeah,
so
and I'll
pin
send it to you, and then you can get it. But yeah, just look it up. It's there. So 2 fatal flaws in the law. The one is because the foster parents don't report, and we need to make them mandatory reporting. It's perfectly okay to report a missing child twice.
Yeah.
It is not perfectly okay to never report the child.
So like that's the thing. Like, is there a penalty for foster parents if they don't report?
No,
like, or is that what we're trying to put in there?
We did a mega search of anybody who ever got either criminal, civil, or bureaucratic discipline. None. There's not one. We have looked and looked and looked and looked. There is no penalties. And so what we're going to do in terms of the penalty, we're going to make it very light. It'll be something to the effect of, if a child goes missing and the social worker fails to report it, if that child dies or ends up in trafficking, I forget what they ended with. I think it was a 1-year mandatory prison sentence. And so that's a pretty light sentence for a child who died. But you know what it'll do is because there were never any consequences. As a matter of fact, you got more money if you didn't report.
Here's the thing.
It'll switch.
Aren't social workers mandated reporters?
They are, but the anti-reporter laws are not the same as the missing child laws.
But even still, like a mandated reporter, like that's where in my case it's like.
Mandated reporter law has penalties to it.
Yeah, but they should have.
Federal law that
Doesn't.
It does not. And
But
that,
aren't they?
They should have.
Yeah.
They aren't doing a
For
good
the
job
teachers.
with the first because they're demanding certain things, but then they're not following up, and there is no way for them to follow it because of the current coding system. And I'm also recommending we switch over to a national ICD-9 system. That's what Medicare and Medicaid uses, and they've never lost a Medicare Medicaid patient.
All right.
And they're losing 35,000 children a year, or in 2 years, with no reporting. And some of these children are missing and are still missing, and missing up for 2 years, and they were collecting the money for them still.
Okay, can I run a wild theory by you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is not woo-woo. This is like when I'm looking at the crisis that's happening in CPS and then the crisis that's happening in family courts, where these judges are just fundamentally not following the Constitution or federal law or state law, and then you have to like rewind your case. That's at the top level where they're like bankrupting families, and then you come down and it gets down to CPS, and it's almost like the bottom of the barrel where nobody's paying attention, and it's almost like the forgotten, right? It's like a caste system almost.
Again, because there are no cameras in the judicial system of family courts,
When they have like dependency courts
bad
and juvenile
things
court.
happen in the dark, and we really would like for them to open up the courts, and then also have the social workers wear body cams.
Yeah.
But all of those things aren't going to stop it, as long as they still have to do like illegal things to keep their population up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what laws we write. We have to remove the source. We have to take the bee sting out is what's causing them to do this behavior. So we have to make it per head count, from per head count to now per population. And then also...
And it's just a flat rate?
Just a flat rate. That's it. You're done. And then to stop ASFA and any bonus-driven payment system that is either in Title 4E or Title 4D.
And then isn't there like a clause in it that would prioritize biological families?
There already is. Again, we can make all the laws in the freaking world, but until we take the need for them to go and lie to keep the population up, they're going to have to keep doing it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, we really need to fix what the essential driver is that's causing them to. I mean, it's not a coincidence. When I found out way back when that all of the states were acting, I thought it was bad actors. I thought it was a bunch of bad actors. I thought maybe it was a bad state. But then finally I found out that every single state in the nation was going through the same thing. That was not a coincidence. That was by design because of the way that the funds are distributed.
Wow.
And I also just want to clear up one other thing that was mentioned in the article. It talked about me working with the Family Forward Project and the advocacy bill, and I am all for the advocacy bill. The only reason that Connie and I did split for a while, and now we're kind of back together, we made up, but was because she was not in support of my ghost children bill. She didn't think it was a good idea to focus on making criminal penalties for the social workers. She thought that would turn, the people off and they wouldn't work with us. And so her thought process was not in alignment with me. And so she forbade. I was like, I furnish housing for people to come to DC, and she was like telling me, I am furnishing everybody's housing, and she's telling me that I can't talk about my own issue. And so that's when we got mad at each other and broke up.
She was a former lawyer for the Clintons?
No, just a former lawyer. Yeah, not for the Clintons. No, she's very Republican. I'm very Democrat.
Oh, is she? Oh, okay.
But we've been getting, we didn't split because of a political thing. It was like I was kind of do like the art, I have a kind of an art of war style, you know, I get in their face and create tension. And she's much more of a peace, calm negotiator. And we were literally trying to make war and peace in the same room.
Yeah.
And it was being very dysfunctional. So I just kind of stopped.
Yeah.
I took a pause for a while. And that was when Francesca actually asked me if I would help with her bill. And I said, sure I will. I'll help anybody, you know, to help the child welfare cause. And I asked her to give me a copy of it, which she did not. I finally got a copy the day after the conference. And I was appalled. It was so unconstitutionally written. There were some good concepts, but it was very...
All ICE detention facilities are for profit.